You know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm looking at two photographs that don't look alike. So at minimum, there needs to be some explanation.
So the jawline has changed. Now, question. I don't know anything about plastic surgery, but is it possible that she's had, what is it, where they pull the skin back and they shape up the face? Is that what's going on here? And this is, but she's not very wrinkly. If that was the case, you would think if what staples, they staple the shit back there. Because, I mean, she's in her late 50s here, 60 something, incredibly wealthy woman. Why wouldn't she have plastic surgery?
And also to cover up the ability for the public and for members of Congress, representing the public, from being able to get to the bottom of what really happened.
Trump's DOJ is covering up our ability to be able to prosecute foreign nationals that were trafficking children. Why is he doing this? For the exact reason that he told Marjorie Taylor Greene. His friends would get hurt. He himself would get hurt. As we found out last week, multiple allegations of child rape found credible by the FBI against Donald Trump. I love that we have somebody in the chat asking, why do leftists hate this country? As they're literally seeing a video of a Trump DOJ plot to cover up a child sex trafficking ring. Leftists hate this country. Yo, I'm Justin FREAKIN. Right-wingers keep trying to mock me for my sub and view count on YouTube, so I guess I'll be a good content creator and do what the algorithm gods demand and tell you to like the video. Or dislike it for all I care. I know I'm not a very likable personality. But if you do enjoy the vibes around here, be a good subby and seduce that subscribe button. And if you want to find out what that news be doing Sunday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 Pacific on the Troll Patrol Live, then be sure to hit that bell the way I would hit the bong. But Debbie Wasserman Schultz once again was able to view the unredacted Epstein files. And she says that the DOJ is covering up something incredibly sick.
Hi everybody, I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me once again is Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me as always, Brittany.
This is the second time in a few weeks that you visited the Department of Justice to view the unredacted Epstein files. So to start off the conversation, what was the goal this time around?
So I filed the No Escaping Justice Act just recently, which is legislation designed to focus on making sure that we can hold accountable foreign nationals who engaged in Jeffrey Epstein's international sex crime ring. If the Department of Justice won't prosecute anyone else and Congress is not able to make them, we certainly should be able to hold accountable foreign nationals who engaged in those kinds of horrific crimes. And the legislation would freeze their assets in the United States, would restrict their travel, and would also require the Department of Justice to produce lists of foreign nationals that were engaged in the kind of trafficking and criminal activity that are what we are supposed to be able to see transparently from the legislation that we passed requiring the fully unredacted Epstein files to be visible. My goal in this last review from this morning was to really scan through files that seemed evident where there were foreign nationals involved in engaging in the criminal activity or aiding and abetting Jeffrey Epstein in his criminal activity, particularly his sexual criminal activity. And those files were essential to be able to see. And, it just continues to shock me and outrage me that There are tens of thousands of files, probably hundreds of thousands, given how many files there are, that have redactions in them that block our ability to see who it is that was engaged in criminal activity with Jeffrey Epstein. The only thing the law allows, Brittany, is to have the names redacted that were of the victims. Everything else is supposed to be unredacted.
I know last time when you and I talked about you visiting and looking through the unredacted files, you said you believed that the DOJ was engaged in a cover-up with all of these redactions. Did you notice, because this time you went with a focus on foreign nationals, were the names of foreign nationals redacted in that way too?
There were names of people who appeared to be foreign nationals. When I was able to unredact those names from particular files that I reviewed, it was very clear that a number of the individuals whose names were redacted and who there were serious questions about what their activities were based on the document I was reviewing should not have been hidden from view. And the only reason that that could have been possible at this point, especially given the volume of redactions, is because the Department of Justice is trying to cover up what the crimes that were committed, and also to cover up the ability for the public and for members of Congress representing the public from being able to get to the bottom of what really happened.
Trump's DOJ is covering up our ability to be able to prosecute foreign nationals that were trafficking children. Why is he doing this? For the exact reason that he told Marjorie Taylor Greene. His friends would get hurt. He himself would get hurt, as we found out last week. Multiple allegations of child rape found credible by the FBI against Donald Trump. I love that we have somebody in the chat asking, why do leftists hate this country? As they're literally seeing a video of a Trump DOJ plot to cover up a child sex trafficking ring. Leftists hate this country. Not the billionaire pedophiles that the right-wingers elected. Leftists hate this country. God damn it, right-wingers the dumbest fucks walking the planet. Elect a literal pedophile con man, convicted felon, then ask why I hate the country. God damn. Fuck me. Now let's get into a little conspiracy. This is the fun thing. We watched the Ghislaine Maxwell deposition the other day. A lot of people in my chat pointed out she doesn't look the same as before she went in. Now, I will preemptively say my part and say that I think she had a lot of work done before she went in, and that work requires maintenance. And since she's been in, things are drooping, Botox, blah, 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 and that's the results that we're seeing now. However, there is a plastic surgeon that posits maybe that's not the same person.
And reconstructive surgeon who thinks that the Ghislaine Maxwell currently sitting in the Bryan, Texas low-level security prison is not Ghislaine Maxwell herself, but in fact an imposter. Dr. Zarabi, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's get into this. With the release of the Epstein files, there have been a lot of conspiracy theories floating around the internet. And it seems like one of the conspiracy theories is the one that you're stating, that Ghislaine is not the actual Ghislaine currently sitting in prison. And why do you think that?
Yeah, everything you said I think is true. There's definitely a lot of conspiracy theories around Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and I don't want viewers out there to think that I am some nutty conspiracy theorist, but when I saw these two photos, it definitely raised some eyebrows, and it made me really take a second hard look at these two photographs. And these photos, as you mentioned, were, I believe, released by the DOJ, and it shows a photograph of Ghislaine Maxwell at some point before her incarceration and now while she's incarcerated. And the photos look remarkably different. Everyone that I've shown these two photographs to are understandably shocked and surprised by how.
And these are the same people that think that Joe Biden's a clone.
So almost everything has changed about her. The shape of the jawline has changed. The shape of the nose has changed. And probably the most telling is the shape of the upper and lower eyelids look completely different.
So, talk to me about this. Do you know when the first picture of Ghislaine was taken? We have them both up on screen right now. Is it possible that she,
So the jawline has changed. Now, question. I don't know anything about plastic surgery, but is it possible that she's had, what is it where they pull the skin back and they shape up the face? Is that what's going on here? And this is, but she's not very wrinkly. If that was the case, you would think if what staples, they staple the shit back there. Because, I mean, she's in her late 50s here, 60 something, incredibly wealthy woman. Why wouldn't she have plastic surgery?
Oh, just got some work done in between the time that picture was taken and the time of her incarceration.
That's certainly possible, but in the photographs that I did, the research,
her titties look
some
bigger.
of the photos that I did, I believe both those photos were taken while she was incarcerated. So I don't think that she's...
Now, I don't think he is referring to the same photo that TMZ saw. He was seeing a booking photo and a more recent photo. The one that TMZ had on the screen was certainly before she was arrested.
somehow had cosmetic surgery during her time in
This is
prison.
the person who
Now,
played Jim
don't get me
Carrey.
wrong. Inmates are they are deserving of medical care. They do require medical attention. However, I'm not sure if that includes having cosmetic surgery to make your eyelids look more youthful. That seems a little out there.
And I'm seeing in these pictures, there's almost a widening of the nose. Is that something that can happen naturally over time?
Certainly, as we age, the nose can become a little larger. It can also become a little bit more droopy. But the changes that you're seeing there, I don't think are age related. Now, to be fair, there are subtle differences in which the ways the photographs were taken. So in one photo, her head is slightly oriented differently, which can definitely affect the shape of the nose, and it can also affect the shape of the jawline, depending on how the angle of the photograph was taken. But what is undeniable is the change in the shape of her eyes. So when you look at her before, she has a lot of heaviness in her upper eyelids. There's a lot of fullness. The eyelid crease itself, the fold above the eyelashes, is very close to the eyelashes in her earlier photo. And then when you look at the newer photograph, you can see that the eyelid crease is sitting a lot higher. There's less fullness. I mean, again, either this is a different person or she had cosmetic surgery.
Or could she have had cosmetic surgery on her looks before she went in? And it just, like if you've had some sort of lift and then it droops. Is that what we're seeing? But I would think that he, being a cosmetic surgeon, would know this, but having an explanation also probably wouldn't get you on TMZ.
And when you look at the lower eyelids as well, you'll notice that there's a lot more fullness to the lower eyelid region. There's a little bit of fat there. Now, in the more recent photographs, there's almost a little hollowing, which again suggests either she had eyelid surgery to remove some of the skin or to even remove some of that fat. It looks very, very different.
Don't you think, it's a little out there to say that it's an imposter? Because I think to switch someone out, it would require so many people, especially with a case at this level. It would require so many people that someone would have to let something slip or talk. Don't you think it's a little out there to propose a theory like this?
I agree with you. I agree with you, which is why I, struggled with this. And I mentioned that, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm looking at two photographs that don't look alike. So at minimum, there needs to be some explanation around these two photos. And maybe, yes, she did have cosmetic surgery during her time during her incarceration. That's fine. That's an explanation, but it's just, they just don't look the same. And, yes, I agree with you that a lot of people would have to be involved.
She wasn't in the type of prison where I think they would allow you to seek cosmetic surgery until Trump moved her.
To cover such a thing up. But don't forget, we also thought that Jeffrey Epstein hung himself in prison, and yet there's no video evidence. The videos of his surveillance while he was incarcerated surprisingly went missing. I think I heard something that the security guard happened to be on a break. So, even that is kind of fishy if you ask me. So I agree, it sounds crazy, and I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but
once again, if someone had the power to put a body double in place of Ghislaine Maxwell in prison, that person would be named Donald Trump. Just like if there was someone that had the power to have Epstein offed back in 2019. That man's name was Donald Trump. So if Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself, then you would have to assume that Donald Trump, who was president at the time, would have been the person powerful enough to have him killed. And to what end?
Like one hit and click one back, one more click before we hit the set an alert when that shit goes live. Social fucking support and hit subscribe. Light one up and take a hit. He does no harm, but it takes no shit. He's the last one standing when the ship is sinking. Let's take another rip for Justin Freakin.
Light one up, tip one back. I'm Justin Freakin.
Not high enough for this shit.